And to details, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and his Turkish counterpart, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, held summit talks at Ittihadiyya Palace and signed a number of cooperation agreements and MOUs in different domains. Meanwhile, the two first ladies inspected the Egyptian Red Crescent and the Operation Room of Decent Life initiative, which is responsible to deliver humanitarian aid into Gaza. Details.
He received his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan at Cairo International Airport in Cairo on Wednesday. The two leaders held talks which tackled a number of regional and international issues of mutual concern. Those included ongoing efforts to reach a Gaza ceasefire agreement and guarantee the safety of Gazans in addition to securing the entry of humanitarian aid to the besieged Gaza Strip. President Sisi and Erdogan also discussed means of pushing forward joint efforts which are aimed at enhancing bilateral relations in various domains. Following their talks, the two leaders signed a number of cooperation agreements and memos of understandings in different domains. Later, Sisi and Erdogan held a joint press conference during which the head of state welcomed the Turkish leader's visit to Egypt, praising the strong historical ties binding the two nations. The president reiterated that Egypt is Turkey's first trade partner in Africa and asserted desire for boosting economic relations during the coming period. Sisi also pointed out that the talks with his Turkish counterpart stressed on the necessity of immediate ceasefire in Gaza Strip and discussed the Libyan file. The head of state said he was looking forward to visiting Turkey next April at an invitation of President Erdogan with the aim of continuing joint cooperation in various fields in light of their history and joint civilization's heritage. For his part, Erdogan expressed gratitude for President Sisi's generous hospitality and pleasure for his visit to Egypt after 12 years. Erdogan said that Turkey seeks to increase the trade volume with Egypt to $15 billion and to expand Turkish investments in the Egyptian market. The Turkish leader reiterated that sending humanitarian aid to Gaza is Turkey's top priority and expressed his appreciation to Egypt for its strong rejection to displace Palestinians from their homeland.
Egypt and Turkey enjoy strong historical ties that include diplomatic, economic, cultural and tourism ties over history. The two countries are keen on pushing forward joint efforts which are aimed at enhancing bilateral relations in various domains. The story.
Egypt and Turkey, two influential regional players with a complex history of cooperation, are now working on mending their ties, starting with appointing ambassadors and arranging meetings for senior state officials before the end of this year. Egypt and Turkey have strong religious, cultural and historical ties. The relationship binding Turkish and Egyptian peoples goes back more than 1,000 years, and this has led to common lifestyles, values and traditions as well as intermarriages. During the time of Muhammad Ali Pasha and his son Ibrahim Pasha in the early 19th century, Egyptian-Turkish cultural relations were very strong, and Turkish language and culture penetrated deeply into Egyptian culture. Most of the books published at the time were in the Arabic and Turkish languages. The two countries are resuming diplomatic relations with an excellent foundation for dialogue and discussing how to reactivate joint cooperation in every possible field. On the economic level, bilateral trade between the two countries hovers at around $9.7 billion, $2.6 billion of which is in the energy field. Last year, Turkey was the #1 export destination for Egyptian goods. This was also the case in the first quarter of this year, with Egyptian exports to Turkey coming in at $800 million. Egypt is the #1 investment destination for Turkish businesses. The value of private Turkish investments in Egypt is close to $3 billion, and it is due to increase by an additional $5 billion. In the tourism domain, last year the number of Egyptian tourists visiting Turkey hit a record 200,000 and will reach 500,000 soon and have the potential to reach 1 million in 5 years. Regarding Turkish tourism to Egypt, last year the Egyptian authorities lifted the visa requirement for Turkish nationals to visit Sharm el-Sheikh. More and more Turkish tourists are going to Sharm el-Sheikh. As a result, around 5 times more than before the visa requirement was lifted.
Negotiations to pause the Israeli war in Gaza and free the remaining Israeli hostages headed into a second day in Cairo on Wednesday. The details.
For the second consecutive day, Egypt is hosting truce talks to end Gaza war on Wednesday. A Hamas delegation holds talks with Egyptian and Qatari mediators in Cairo after Israeli negotiators held talks with the mediators on Tuesday. CIA Director William Burns joined the talks with head of Israel's Mossad intelligence service David Barney, with Egypt describing the talks as mostly positive. U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said the negotiations were constructive and moving in the right direction. Mediators are racing to secure a pause to the fighting before Israel proceeds with a full-scale ground incursion into the Gaza Strip's southern city of Rafah, where more than 1.4 million Palestinians are trapped. As the truce talks go on in Cairo, the Israeli military has kept up its bombardment of Gaza. Israeli occupation forces shelled eastern areas of Rafah overnight and pounded several areas of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The Gaza Health Ministry said Israeli occupation forces were continuing to isolate the two main hospitals in Khan Yunis and that sniper fire at the city's Nasser hospital had killed and injured many people in recent days. Speaking in a video from inside Nasser hospital, one doctor said the facility had been under siege by Israeli forces for 22 days and that bulldozers protected by tanks had knocked down the hospital's northern gate. In the latest international plea for Israel to hold off on an assault on Rafah, the German foreign minister said an offensive on the city would jeopardize the humanitarian situation there. For his part, U.S. President Joe Biden stressed that civilians in Rafah need to be protected, calling them exposed and vulnerable. UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths warned that any military operation would lead to a slaughter. And the World Health Organization warned of the danger of pushing Gaza's health system close to collapse.